Welcome to the Mind Body Podcast, your rebellious podcast about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. I'm your host, Maria Angelova, creator of the Angelova method, an integrative approach to mind and body connection. The Angelova method redefines your success equation to include a healthy body and a healthy mind. Hi, Rebels. Welcome to the Mind Body Podcast, your rebellious podcast with me, your host, Maria, where it is all about a strong body, calm mind, healing, and fully living. And we have an extra special treat for you today. We have Cory and Jessica, the healing couple who, oh my gosh, you guys, great vibes coming ahead. You have to stay tuned. You have to stay on because I just know this will be a phenomenal conversation. Welcome, guys. How are you doing?
We're doing great over here in sunny San Diego. Sending you all the sunshine your way.
Yeah, I know. If you guys are watching the video, are you guys not a little bit like jealous? It's a rainy, gray day in Atlanta. And look at that light, natural light and sunshine over there. Send some, send some to the East Coast. Cory and Jessica, we met at an event, and I do have to say, you guys gravitate with your amazing energy, as I already mentioned it. You guys do something super cool, and before we dive into that, we're gonna leave people on a cliffhanger. Let's get to know who Cory and Jessica are, and usually ask my guests to say 3 words that describe them, but we're gonna flip it. And Jessica, you're gonna give me 3 words that describe Cory, and Cory is gonna give us 3 words that describe Jessica. So, you guys ready?
I'm ready. Who goes first?
I don't know. You guys, who is in charge of the family? Go for it.
All right. Jess, you go first.
See, at least they're clear.
I love this. My palms are sweaty right now. I'm like, ooh, this is fun. Okay. So definitely the first word that comes to mind is rebellious. I mean, like, I know that you've got the Rebellious Tribe. This is a Rebellious podcast, and it's so perfect for Cory. That's like number one. If you know anything about Cory, I mean, he'll push the boundaries, right? And all with love. I really want to like have that caveat because it's always with love. It's always with intentionality, because I think you can be rebellious and just do it for the sake of it. And he does it with intention of, really, doing it for the good of society, doing it for the good of humanity. And so stretching what we think might be possible, stretching what we think might be true, and like really questioning, like, is that true? Right. And like, and I think that also another word is very inquisitive. Like, he is so curious. He's always researching. He's always staying on top of, especially when it comes to health and wellness, of like, okay, like what do we know to be true, and making sure that the information gets out there. So it's not just like curious for yourself, like really being such an investigator, but how can I share this knowledge and wisdom with other people so that they can better their lives? And man, number three is consistent. Cory is consistent AF. He's about his routines. He's a very habitual person. And I love that about him, because I will say that that's not somebody that's not a word that you probably use to describe me. I'm very free flowing, very free spirited. But it's brought so much into my life, and then also into so many of our clients' lives, right? Like that consistency, you know what you can expect from him, and you know that he's going to be there and really hold you high and really have your best interests in mind. And there's so much, structure to that. I think a lot of us really value freedom, right? But we can't have freedom unless we have that structure. So I really just appreciate that on a personal level, within our relationship, within our business, but I know that so many people in our community do as well.
Wow, Cory, you got to step your game up.
I got to step my game up.
I didn't set the bar high.
I mean, yes, she did.
3 words to describe Jessica Ray Waala. Well, I would say that Jessica, she is a performer. And I mean that not from like this like flimsy, whimsical, like I'm going to be a puppet on a stage kind of performer, but when the occasion occurs, she rises to it. And I find it's really interesting, the bigger and bigger experiences or groups, or, we're going to talk about breathwork here. And we lead some pretty big experiences, but the bigger the experience, the more that she shows up, the bigger that she gets. And so it's that like performance quality that she has, where some people kind of shrink in those types of situations, and she always rises to the occasion. So I'd say performer. Second, I would say she is so kind. There's some running jokes that we have with each other. Some of them are I'm poking at her kindness a little bit, but I always say that she's a good citizen because she's the person that will always like give someone a jacket or coat off her back. She will pick up trash off the beach in San Diego, like randomly and periodically. She'll be the one that will like always just like do what is like not just required, not just what's necessary, but what comes from the kindness of her heart. And so that's why I always joke and kid that she's like such a good citizen. I'm necessarily not. So I always learn that from her. And then third would be, this is really good. Third would be, I think that she is really, so Jessica talked about consistency on my end. What she's really brought into my life is creativity. And with creativity comes the unknown. And with the unknown, you get to unlock who you really are. And it wasn't until like I bumped into Jessica, and maybe we can talk about it, but when we bumped into each other randomly and started this whole wild healing couple journey, I know she kind of kidded at herself, like, I'm not necessarily the most consistent person, but I think what brings out not her inconsistency, but her creativity is I have a different experience of life. Like it's a different pace. Before I met her, it was like I had everything was regimented, everything was scheduled. I knew exactly where I was going to be. And with her, it brings just a different air of experience. Like, and maybe it is because we're 5 or 10 minutes late to something, or we thought we could go to place B and then we end up at place A, but it brings some spontaneity and creativity and newness to life that I never had before. So those are the three.
So much goodness into right there. I mean, we can go into so many different directions, but let's kind of pick up right where you left off, Cory. I think the word that comes to me when you're talking about that spontaneous, say that word because it's being spontaneous, right? Is flowing with life versus pushing life, right? I mean, no question. I am a huge believer in consistency. And I always tell my clients, you have to start small and consistent, 5 minutes every day, right? However, if you're always, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, and you feel like crap and you feel like you have to do a HIIT workout where you're exhausted, you haven't slept, you feel like crap, that's pushing and that doesn't necessarily feel good, right? So finding that balance of the consistency, but then also the flow of life and bringing that, and I'll ping on a couple of other words. Cory and Jessica used the word intention, which is one of my favorite words. When you add the intention to all of that, and then Jessica, Cory brought up performance, what that made me think is, I think when we shine in front of those big groups, it's when we are really guided by that passion and that internal urge to serve and to be and to really spread the goodness of what we know to others. I think that's like a beautiful recipe for living, you guys.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's the masculine and feminine energy, right? And we all have that inside of us and we have to have both, right? When we go too far to the masculine, it's so regimented and it's just so much, forcing and whatnot, we become unbalanced, right? And then when we're too much in the feminine energy, then it ends up manifesting as chaos because we don't know up from down, right? So we've got to have both. And that's where I feel like like you said, it's like really a recipe for a fulfilled life and also for success, I believe. And when we can bring those into harmony, that's when we are the most fulfilled.
Yeah, I love that. And you guys, I think this is kind of like a perfect lead way. I mean, Cory kind of gave it out of what you guys do. I wanted to keep it as a secret, but he couldn't. And that is, I know, Cory, it's breath work. And I will tell you guys, as I was thinking about, preparing for our episode, the one thing that came to my mind is a quote by Joseph Pilates. And I think it's a very powerful quote. He said, the first act of life and the last act of life is taking a breath. Right? Isn't that powerful? Like if you just really pause and think about it, your first act of life and your last act of life is taking a breath. And you guys deal with breath work, and breath work is becoming a popular, I hate to say it, cool thing to do right now, kind of like Pilates. It's cool to do breath work. It's cool to do Pilates, right? let's really talk about like the depth of breathwork, and what does breathwork have to do with any of the things that we talked about: balance, harmony, living, a quality life. Some people are like, what, breathwork, that's your hot topic for today? Yes, it's huge, right? So like,
Huge.
what do you guys have to say from the perspective of people who are teaching people how to do breathwork, the impact breathwork has on your students, on society, on your community?
Yeah. Well, I love the overlap between breathwork and Pilates, and talking about Joseph Pilates in that quote. And it's funny that you said his quote of like, essentially the first thing that you do when you're born is you breathe, and the last thing that you do when you die is you breathe. But we add a little spice on top of that. We say, so then if you, first thing that you do when you're born is you breathe, last thing you do when you die is you breathe, then how are you breathing right now, and how are you breathing in between? And what I'd love to share with your audience, just so we can kind of land the plane on like, what is breath work? How is it applying? It's this hot topic. Well, think about it this way. Every single day you breathe, what is it? The stats are like 27,000 times. Let me say that again, 27,000 times. So if breath is an access to your life, quite literally, you are doing that 27,000 times per day. That is a connection point to this present moment. And why I love breath work so much is it can touch not only the physical body, but the emotional body, and as well as the spiritual body. And depending on the type of breathwork technique that you're using, you can access one of those, two of those, or all three of them. And so for me and Jessica, to kind of break down the word breathwork, because you're right, it's really hot, it's popular right now, everybody's using it. And when someone says, hey, I'm a breathwork facilitator, or I do breathwork, that could mean anything.
Right.
Anything. And so me and Jessica, we train other people how to do this work as well. And so what we share with them is like, look, breathwork's popular, but we like to think of breathwork as an umbrella term, meaning that it's many different types. And so on one end of the umbrella, you have what we call is like ancient practices, pranayama, yogic breathing, right? That has been distilled down over 8,000 years. And for the most part, there's many different types of pranayama techniques. For the most part, it's shorter in duration, and usually it's focused on relaxing you, right? Activating parts of your nervous system that are called the parasympathetic nervous system, okay? Then on the middle part, so we're starting to go up the umbrella towards that point, you have more what we call is like physiological breathing, which is like Wim Hof is a big one, right? Where it's like short duration, intense breathing, and usually the results that you're trying to get from it are physical, right? You're trying to improve your VO2 max or improve the delivery of oxygen to your tissues. Then on the other end of the umbrella, all the way at the other end, we like to call that type of breath work conscious connected breath work, or what we have trademarked, which is the reset breathwork method. And the point behind these types of techniques is to take people on long form transformational journeys so that they can go deep within their emotional body and help reset their nervous system. And I don't, if you guys are listening to this, you probably don't know what just happened, but we just had a bunch of fireworks.
Yes, I don't know. I don't understand how
idea.
but there were fireworks. So Cory,
Yeah.
you said something really good.
Yes. Yeah. So the lightning bolt has struck. But yeah, and the other end of the umbrella are these long form journeys. And maybe that's what people are starting to see on social media, or maybe you got an ad for it. But the idea behind it is to really help people get out of their monkey mind, get out of the mind that's consciously or subconsciously playing over and over again 95% of our thoughts, feelings, behaviors, emotions, right? Dr. Joe Dispenza. And so it's a practice of getting out of your mind and back into your body. And the beautiful thing about the body is that there is a lot of innate healing mechanisms emotionally and spiritually that are there, that are hardwired, that you just got to breathe to access. And so that's what we help people do, is we help access that part of their nervous system and body to heal.
I think the one thing that I see, I'm not a breathwork specialist, but I definitely integrate breathwork because with the type of work I do and getting people to engage their core, a lot of times I get, and there is no breath, right? For those of you here watching, is basically people are holding their breath. Mm-hmm. And that is not good for the body. That is not healthy for the body. That creates tension into the body. And the big awareness I create about people is if you constantly breathe with your shoulders going up and down and creating that tension into the neck and shoulders. I mean, how many of you guys listening can relate to that? Like touch your neck, touch your shoulders. Like, can you separate the muscles? I touch some people and there is like no mobility. There's no separations of the muscle. They're all glued together, right? And then there's no mobility into the ribs. Everything is just kind of stuck and glued. And I mean, you said it, Cory, we breathe 27,000 times a day. I mean, come on, guys, that's an essential of life. We got to nail that down because that breath is not just breath. I mean, that's life. That's bringing oxygen into your brain. That's bringing oxygen into your body. Oxygen is necessary for every single physiological function that's happening into your body. So it's not just something that's woo-woo out there, right? It is very much health, right?
Yeah, because it's truly, we always say your breath is a mirror for your life and your health.
Yeah.
How you breathe is how you live, and vice versa. And what we really teach and preach a lot of is when it especially comes to just like your emotional well-being, whether you feel like you're an anxious person or a depressed person, or maybe you've even dealt with some past trauma. The thing is if you're not aware of your breath, it will control you. And so one of the basic and first tenets of breath work in general is just to become aware of your breath. So if you, after listening to this podcast, if you're like, this is kind of weird, whatever, I challenge you, if you're driving your car, if you're going to pick up your kids, whatever you're doing right now, just take a moment, become more aware of your breath. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it deep? Is it shallow? Is it choppy or is it smooth? See, there's all these different qualities that you can have with your breath. Are you breathing more in your chest, like Maria was talking about, or is it more in your belly? Are you breathing maybe more in your ribs? You notice your ribs are sore, right? You know, breathing with your shoulders. And just by doing that, naturally, your breath is going to start to deepen, starting to slow, and you're going to become more connected to your body in the present moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Cory.
Yeah. So then the second part is, okay, I've done that a couple of times. Now I'm starting to believe a little bit. The second part is to become an active participant in your breath. And the amazing things about your lungs, unlike any other organ system within the body, is it's connected to, well, your conscious mind, because you can tell yourself to breathe, right? Take a deep breath. And also, it will breathe on its own, meaning it's a part of your autonomic nervous system, which is the parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system. It's also part of the deep subconscious and unconscious parts of your nervous system, meaning it just runs on its own.
Thank God.
And beautiful. I know. Thank God. Thank God.
Yes.
We would be screwed if we had to count on remembering to breathe.
Yes.
I know. And so the thing is that, like I said in the beginning, how you breathe is how you live. So if you are subconsciously and unconsciously breathing in a particular pattern, like you said, holding your breath, maybe not breathing consistently, and you're having imbalances within your breath, that's going to show up in your emotions. And so me and Jessica, we have had the amazing opportunity to watch, probably over 30,000 people. We've lost track by now. 30,000 people breathe. It's kind of a weird situation to be in. And we notice that there's patterns. There's patterns of the anxious breather. There's patterns of the depressed breather. There's patterns of the person that is either coming up against their trauma or their past emotions that they haven't been able to get over. And so the rule is that if you breathe in a particular pattern for long enough, consistently enough, strong enough, it's going to create what we call as a homeostatic snapback effect. And that means that your nervous system will then reset. Whether it is the anxiety, whether it is depression, whether it is a trauma, whatever that thing is, you will neurologically overcome it and come back home to yourself. And I don't know if you want to jump in here or anything, but those are the two components of breath work, is really the breath awareness and then becoming an active participant in it and figuring out what are the patterns that I need to achieve to overcome the issues and the situations that I'm dealing with.
I love it. And I will tell you, maybe I've shared this with you guys. I will ask people, are you stressed? And mostly they say no, or they'll say no, but I'm used to the stress. And you know what I ask them to do? I'll ask them, take a breath. And then I watch what happens into their body.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is when I cue them on how to breathe, like how to get the full expansion of the lungs and then full exhale, do you know what happens? A lot of people get dizzy because they're not used to getting so much oxygen into their body, which is why I made the joke of, thank God we breathe automatically, because we're so busy, we will forget to breathe.
Mhm.
And breath is, like you said, it has, I mean, yes, the basic breath sustains life, but it goes so much deeper into the subconscious, the emotional health, the spiritual health, which unfortunately we are not really trained to think about much, right?
Right. And that's where the breath comes in. It helps us to train ourselves to have that deeper awareness. And you know, and like you said, I mean, we are with the stress, we may not realize, you know, that we're holding our breath. We may not realize what we are holding onto. And that's what we often hear from our clients after they come out of a breathwork journey with us. They're like, I didn't even realize how much was inside, because we're just going through the motions. For most of us, we're on autopilot. And the way that, you know, society is set up now, it's just like you just go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And so you may ask somebody, are you stressed? They're like, no, I'm good.
They're used to it.
Yeah, they're used to it. We have this baseline that's unhealthy, right? And then it develops into chronic stress. So it's just these micro stressors just keep building and building and building day after day after day, until we look back and we're like, how did I even get here? Like how, you know, and that was the reason why I got into breath work over a decade ago, was because the same thing. If my friends would ask me, how are you doing, Jess? Like, oh, good, I'm fine, everything's good, right? And that's usually our typical response when someone asks us, how are you doing? Even though if we really stop and we really pay attention, we'd be like, oh, you know what? I'm feeling kind of sad today. Or, you know what? I'm feeling like it's, you know, I'm kind of holding a lot of stress today. Or, you know, I'm feeling really grateful, but we don't necessarily, you know, check in with the emotions. We just label it all as good. And then we keep moving on. And it wasn't until, you know, my friends kept reflecting back to me, like, you know, you should try breath work, you should try breath work, you should try breath work. And I was like, well, I breathe all the time. And that's what we hear a lot from people too. Is like, I breathe all the time. I breathe every day. So what is breath work going to do for me? Right? Until you do it, until you see again how much is inside. And for me, it unlocked so much, because it got me to actually quiet my mind down. And when I checked in with the body, I was like, wow, you know, all this childhood trauma that had built up. And also, you know, for up until that point that I first experienced breath work, you know, everything was about my external environment, right? Like I relied on validation from, whether it was my parents or from, you know, from friend groups, from my grades, and like all these things that I thought would make me successful and make me happy. But breathwork was the thing that made me go inward. And then I realized, you know, I had this moment where I just started laughing in the middle of breath work. I had this big smile on my face, and I, you know, tears started coming on my face. And I was like, I don't even know why I'm laughing right now. And what is going on? And I heard this voice that just said, Jess, this is what true happiness feels like. And in that moment, my life changed forever, because I got back in the driver's seat of my life with my own breath, of like, oh, I determine my happiness. Nothing else in my external environment does. And in fact, I can actually shift my external environment. I have a say in how this goes. I think a lot of us were actually just sitting in the passenger seat, or maybe even in the back seat of our own
lives. Yeah.
Right? But when you take back control of your breath, you will be at the wheel and deciding how you want to feel and what's next for you. And that's what it's done for not just me, but for everyone that we've worked with.
You know, I love that, Jess, because I recently did a live video exactly on that. The internal, and how it's not the external, it's not the new house, the new car. These are great, the new relationship, the new job, right? We seek fulfillment from those things, but where the peace, the inner peace, the real happiness comes, it's not from the external, it's from the inside, right? But we continuously seek from our parents, our family, our friends, our bosses, whoever it is, that external validation. And we are so used to covering up the symptoms and not being aware of the causes, right? And they just keep going on autopilot. And then we don't understand why life just is not going the way we want it to go. It's because we're not in the driver's seat. And I can very much attest to that, because I'll have people who are like, oh, my back doesn't hurt. I just thought that's part of getting old, or like my neck doesn't hurt, right? And then they're like, I really didn't know the difference between feeling good and being achy. I just thought being achy is how life is, until they feel the difference, right?
Mhm.
So I love it. Okay. For the sake of time, I usually people ask for a piece of advice. Can you give us like a sample of a breath for somebody who is listening right now, and maybe they're busy, so don't take them into a meditative state, but don't make them fall asleep behind the car, behind the wheel, but like allow them, cue us through taking a really nice deep full breath, maybe a couple of those.
Yes. So let's do it. Let's do a really simple practice called box breathing. This is actually used by Navy SEALs in their training to really help them to stay calm yet focused, right? So we're not like getting so deep into the parasympathetic where we're just kind of chilling, but we're in that state where we're actually, it's in the flow state. Right. So this is a great one that you can really use at any time of day. And so I'll guide you just through a couple rounds. If you have the opportunity to close your eyes, I invite you to, but if you're at the wheel, keep your eyes open. And
Please.
yes, please. And we'll just do a couple quick rounds. So again, if you can close the eyes and just tune into your breath. Because like Cory was saying, just the awareness of our breathing can unlock so much, because our breath is connected to our thoughts, to our emotions, and to our physical state, can reveal a lot to us. So just notice if you're breathing fast or slow, deep or shallow, and notice the muscles that you're using to breathe. Just notice each inhale and each exhale. And it's okay if your mind gets distracted, it starts to wander. Maybe there's, some noise in the background or whatnot. Just bring your awareness gently back to your next breath. And the way that box breathing is going to work is you're going to imagine like you're breathing in a box or in a square. So we're going to be breathing in for 4, holding for 4, out for 4, and then holding for 4. So like the sides of a square. So together, let's take a deep breath in, breathing through the nose, breathing in for a count of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it at the top. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Hold at the bottom. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Hold at the bottom. 2, 3, 4. And continue on your own. So just imagine breathing in that square. If you want to challenge yourself, feel free to increase the count. Maybe you do 5 on each side, or maybe even 6 or 7. So we're breathing in and we're holding at the top, breathing out and holding at the bottom. And if you lose count, it's all good. Just come back to your next inhale. And we'll do just 2 more full rounds, 2 more squares. I invite you on those exhales just to let go of anything that you may be holding on to. So just imagine that you're just releasing on your out breath any fear, self-doubt, any anxiety. And on the inhale, breathing in what you desire, whether it be more confidence, more self-love, more trust. Stay with your breath. Getting into that state of calm yet focus. Feeling relaxed and present. So wherever you are, just finish the square that you are on, holding at the bottom, and just return back to a normal breath. And once you come back to that normal breathing, take a deep breath in through your nose. Take the biggest breath of the day so far and hold it at the top. Just hold it a little bit longer. Take another sip of air, really expand your lungs fully, and then let out a big sigh, audible sigh. Let it go, 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 let it go.
Woo!
Uh-huh.
Feels
For you. Shake it out.
amazing.
Yes.
Thank you. You know
Yeah.
what? I could totally, well, I'm investigating which muscles are tight and where there is unevenness. That's what's going into my head. Total awareness. But yeah, I totally feel like calmer, more grounded,
Yeah.
more clear.
Yeah.
I mean, how simple was that? Like, I didn't keep track of time, maybe 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Simple. All right, you guys, for the sake of time, I can keep talking to you. Maybe you guys should come back and we should do something else. I can ask you so many more questions. What is your definition of rebellious?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think the definition for me of rebellious is actually following your own truth. I think that we are so, from a young age, I think we are told that things should be this way. Don't do this, don't do that. You should be feeling this. You shouldn't be feeling that. This is what's right for you. And this is like the right path. And I think that we can be led astray. I think oftentimes not like with malintent. I think that there's a lot of people that are looking out for us and they really are doing it with love and with intention. But I think what's an act of rebellion is like taking those with a grain of salt, really listening to people. I don't say like push them out, but listen to that and then go, okay, that's interesting. And then let me check in. Does that really feel true to me? Does this really resonate with me? Does this feel like in alignment with where I desire to go and the impact that I want to make? And maybe it is, and then maybe it isn't. And I think that the breath is a really beautiful way for like, okay, how do I cut out all that outside noise? Because it can be really tempting to kind of listen to everybody else.
It's loud out there.
It's loud, especially on social media. So it's like your breath is a way to check in with your heart, and then do what feels right for you, even if it might disappoint some people. Because I think that if you are so focused on worrying about if I'm going to disappoint other people, you're going to end up disappointing yourself. And I think that I personally did that for a long time. And now, I've prioritized not disappointing myself. And I feel like it's the most true I've ever been to me. And it feels right.
Yeah. Be careful who you disappoint, others or yourself. Very
Yeah.
well.
I can't agree more. I think there's a lot of silent suffering going on, whether it is people, like you were saying, like people saying physically, like, I didn't realize that I didn't have to be so achy or didn't have to feel this way. I think it happens emotionally. I think it happens spiritually. I think it's happening maybe even politically right now. I mean, what a rebellious person or a rebellious means to me is someone that's saying, I'm not going to silently suffer anymore. And I'm actually going to stand in my beliefs and take action.
Take action, that's key. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In order for you to get out of the victimization and the silent suffering, it really comes down to you saying loudly and proudly, this is what I believe. And these are the action steps that I'm going to take regardless of what happens around me. And you end up really becoming this symbol for other people to step into their rebellious nature as well.
You empower others, right? It's almost like you give permission for others to dream and be and act, right?
That's right.
In a healthy way for themselves. And it's like the spillover effect of great energy. Love it. All right, guys, where can people find you? What social media, website? You guys do amazing workshops every month. How can people experience the magic of what you guys do? Where can they find more about you? Tell us.
Well, first, I will say we love Instagram. We love our Instagram community. And so if there was any part of this conversation that inspired you or really resonated with you, reach out to us on Instagram. We are at the healing couple _ there's underscore there at the end. And send us a message. Let us know like what really landed for you. We love to hear, from people and to connect and create community there. And then if you are wanting to explore breathwork for yourself, you're wanting to go deeper, even deeper than you talk about the umbrella of breathwork, right? There's pranayama practices. Maybe you've done some deep breathing and yoga. I love it. That's awesome. But if you're really ready for that next level and you want to go deeper with your own transformational journey, maybe it's time to try a conscious connected breathing practice like Reset Breathwork. And like you said, we do monthly workshops. And so every single month is different. We have special giveaways every single month. It's just a fun way to connect with people from all over the world and be able to heal together. And so you can always go to our website. It's thehealingcouple.com, and you can see what workshop we've got coming up next.
I love it. You guys are awesome. Keep spreading magic around the world. Keep teaching people how to breathe and, own the rebel within, right? And liberate that rebel within. I wish you guys continuous luck. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Rebels, I hope you're as inspired as I am and you're paying attention to how you're breathing, if those breaths are full. And if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so confused, you know who to reach out to, right? Because I will tell you, this still sounds simple, but if you've never done it, sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
Even if this is something as simple as a breath. So find Jess and Cory. You guys can tell their energy is amazing. Let us know if you have any questions. And as always, do not forget to stay rebellious. Yes, we'll see you next time. Thank you, Cory and Jessica. I appreciate you guys. Stay well.
Thank you.
Did you enjoy the conversation? Like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Want to redefine your success equation to include a healthy body and a healthy mind? Check out our website at rebellious-studio.com.